Okay, let's review some little shortcuts that will help us dealing with percentages. Let's start with this. Let's say you have a decimal number and you want to change it to percent. Okay, so think of the alphabet, and in the alphabet, the letter D comes before the letter P, decimal percent. So if you want to go from decimal, think of this in the alphabet and this in the alphabet, to go from decimal to percent, you go this direction 2 spaces. You move the decimal 2 spaces this direction, decimal to percent. Let's try that now. So if I have 0.04, this decimal to a percent, move it over to the left 2 spaces. And what will that leave us with? The number 4. If you want to put the decimal, that's okay, you can do that. On this other one, we move it over 2 spaces. So we're going to have a little space holder there. It's going to be 40. 0.4 or 4/10 is the same as 40%. Now I like to think of money when doing this. This is the same as 4 cents, 4%. This is the same as 40 cents. That's 40%. This is like 140 cents, $1.40. Move the decimal over 2 spaces. It's 140%. See that? So all you have to do is move the decimal 2 spaces, and that's your percentage. Going from decimal to percent. What about the other direction? What about from percent to a decimal? No problem. Just think of the alphabet. The letter D and the letter P. To go from percent, the letter P, to decimal, the letter D. You would go that direction 2 spaces. All right, so if I have 8%, now remember the decimal is right there. They just don't show it. But 8%, I need to move it over 2 spaces. So it's going to be 0.08. 8% is the same as 8 cents. That's how you write 8 cents, 8%. This is 80%. Move it over 2 spaces, it'd be like 80 cents. So it'd be, whoops, what am I doing there? Sorry, I made a mistake. Doggone it, I hate when that happens. It's a good thing I have some whiteout. I find that very satisfying when I do that. I don't know what it is. Okay, so anyways, it is 80, right? Where's the decimal though? Oh, I moved over 2 spaces. So actually it's 0.8, or I could say 0.80. Either way is fine. All right, how about 180%? Remember, I move it over 2 cents, it'd be like 180 cents. Right there. So you don't have to have the 0 there, but it just kind of makes it easier for us to recognize. All right, so that's percent to decimal. Move the decimal 2 spaces this way. Okay, so now you have this as reference, so you can always look at it in case you forget how to make a decimal to percent or percent to a decimal. And one key thing to remember, percent means out of 100. Out of 100%. And it's a fraction, some number out of 100. So let's go to changing a percent to a fraction. So if I have the number, make this a little larger, if I have the number 2%, the value 2%, that's the same as 2 out of 100. Now I could reduce that, because I know 2 goes into both of those. Matter of fact, I'm just going to put a little 2 here. So I'm going to scale it down. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 100 divided by 2, half of 100, is 50. So 2% is the same thing as 1/50th. It's 2 100, but then reducing it is 1/50th. All right, let's go for the next one. Percent to a fraction, 20% is the same as 20 out of 100. Now I can reduce that. I think 20 goes into both of those. 20 will go into both. So I'll just scale it down. Scale it down by 20. 20 divided by 20 is 1. 100 divided by 20. In other words, 20 goes into 100 5 times. So I reduced it. I scaled it down by 20. All right, the next one, 120%. Well, that's the same thing as 120 over 100. Now, what number goes into both of these? How about 20? So I'm going to scale it down by 20. 20 goes to 120 6 times, because 6 times 2 is 12. All right, and 20 goes to 100 5 times. So it's 6 over 5. All right, we can make that into a mixed number. And so let's see, we have 5 goes into 6 once, with 1 left over. 1 1/5 is the same as 6/5. So this is our answer. We took a percent and changed it to a fraction, or a mixed number in this case. All right, so that is how we take a percent and make it into a fraction, reduce it to a fraction. All right, now let's go from fraction to percent. Sometimes these can be difficult, and other times they're pretty simple. This first one is simple. So let's see. I want to scale up from 5 to 100. To scale up, I would just multiply by 20, right? 5 times 20 is 100. So I need to do that to this one. 3 times 20 is 60. 60 over 100. 60 hundredths. All right, that's the same thing as 60%. 60 over 100 is 60%. So 3/5 is the same as 60%. And of course, you could have used proportion, the rules of proportion, like 5 goes to the bottom, then 3 times 100, 300 divided by 5. It would still be 60. Now, sometimes there are more difficult problems, and what we do, if you have a fraction, you would just simply divide it. And then, so you'd make it to a decimal by dividing it, and then change it to a percent by moving the decimal over. So in this case, now this is a simple one, but let's go through with it. So 3 goes in the box, 5 on the outside. Here's the decimal point. That's important. 5 doesn't go into 3, so I need to add a 0. 5 goes into 30 6 times, right? That would give me 5 times 6 is 30. There's nothing left over, so that's it. We change a fraction to a decimal by dividing it. So the answer is 0.6, but wait, we want to make it to a percent. Well, to change it to a percent, I just move it over 2 spaces. And if I move it over 2 spaces, it is 60. The answer is 60%. Now, this is a common way of doing this is to actually just use a calculator in many cases. If you do have a calculator, I would just type in 3 divided by 5, and I get 0.6. See that? 0.6. Move the decimal over 2 spaces, and you have your answer. It is 60%. So now you know how to change things around, percent to a fraction, fraction to percent. You can use this as reference. And then the quick way of making decimal to percent or percent to decimal, going back and forth.